Thank you for staying tuned. The SEPLAT petroleum company listed on the Lagos and London stock exchanges has announced a 65% growth in its headline revenue figure to $746 million in 2018. Well, let's see how that earning is being traded at the Nigerian equities market today. Let's talk to Temple. Hello, Temple. Good afternoon. So how are investors reacting to SEPLAT's earnings at this time?
Well, SEPLAT at the point in time was the weakest in the market, down some 3.57%. It looks like it hasn't really changed from that. I think traders, investors here are generally not too impressed with the earnings that was declared. I think it's also because of the fact that the earnings yield was down, and so it's not something that really impressed a lot of investors here. So instead of having to wait for the dividends that will be paid, I think investors are quickly taking profits due to the fact that there's been a bit of capital appreciation on that company over time. Up until this morning, it was trading at 619 naira, and you recall that for a long time before January, it was trending around 550 naira for so long. So it was down to that. It was within that range for quite some days and quite some months actually. And now that it hit 619 naira, and investors are not too impressed with that earnings, the thing is, you could actually just reduce your holding, or better still, just take profits. If you do your valuations and you realize you could make more from the capital appreciation, then it's better you just take profits, as opposed to what the earnings of 5 cents when converted to the local currency here will offer you eventually. That's not the only earnings that was released into the market. We also had Nestle from the consumer goods segment of the market. Investors are a bit positive on that, some 38 naira dividends there. It's something that is really impressive. Drilling down into the earnings of this company, Q4 2018 was about the main sector or the period when the company realized so much gains. Its top line is up for Q4 some 7.5%. But if you look at the overall valuations of the numbers, the top line for 2018 calendar year was up some 9%, and of course it was driven by the recovery that the company realized in its food and beverages segment. I think we know so well that its product, the Maggi, was well on promotion for the greater part of last year, and in the fourth quarter of 2018, Maggi realized some 2.8% year-on-year growth. So that's something that really drove up the performance of the company, and a lot of investors are really bullish on that. We haven't really seen any difference in its price. As at today, it's still trading at 1,510 naira, which was the price it last traded in terms of the share price now, but it's flat right now. However, we've seen some 14 to 15 million units of its shares traded in the market, and some 22 million naira worth of transactions have also taken place on for this particular company. So we'll see that continuing to move forward. However, we know that there's a bit of high operating expenses on Nestle. The operating profits kind of contracted some 11% to 11.3 billion naira for the fourth quarter of last year. That didn't outweigh the positive performance that a lot of analysts actually expected, even though we know that analysts from ARM PLC were expecting it to actually outperform the particular number that was released right now. So this is what we're seeing in the market so far. Those are the two key earnings that we've seen in the market. The market is a bit, in general terms now, a bit down, down some 0.22%. We know that it's only the banking segment that a lot of investors are waiting for that is currently driving up the gains in the market, driving up the market. And however, if anything changes eventually before the close of the market, I think the losses that we are seeing should actually moderate some marginally, coupled with the fact that the interest in the consumer goods segment of the market is really on the high side, Chimeze.
Okay, taking you back to SEPLAT's earning, any idea of the facts behind those figures?
Well, we know that they had a bit of crude oil and gas production last year. That wasn't really interrupted that much. There was an OML oil well that was also the license of which was also renewed, and I think for a longer time till 2038 or thereabouts. So production was really positive for them for the greater part of last year. They didn't have so much of disruptions, as opposed to what happens in the preceding year. Again, we know that last year we had a bit of stability in crude oil price. So all of these put together were some of the key drivers for their performance in 2018.
All right, thank you very much, Temple. Well, I don't know what the weather looks like out there, but here, I think it's raining right now. Anyway, I can just say be safe. Thank you, Temple.
It's the same thing here, actually.
And Zambia is planning to swap its Chinese debt from dollars to yuan in a bid to ease pressure on the copper producer's foreign reserves. The finance minister, Margaret Matakwe, said the discussions with China on the planned debt swap are likely to be held in late March. According to her, the intention is to swap the dollar into yuan so that they can try to somewhat mitigate exposure to the dollar. And as part of its efforts to facilitate trade, the Sudanese government has lowered the customs exchange rate to 15 Sudanese pounds to the dollars from a previous rate of 18. The cabinet also decided to discount 75% of storage fees for cargoes and container stock in Sudanese ports over the period of February 1 to 25. Sudanese businessmen had repeatedly called on the government to lower the rate to help them purchase dollars as the country faces its crippling shortage of foreign currency. And Kenya is discussing a new standby credit facility with the International Monetary Fund after the expiry of a previous program last year. The $989.8 million arrangement expired last September after the government failed to meet the fund's conditions for an extension, including the repeal of a cap on commercial lending. The government is preparing to issue a $2.5 billion Eurobond, and analysts say it would get better interest rates if it secured the standby credit arrangement with the IMF before it goes to the market. Meanwhile, a strike prompted by a labor dispute has grounded flights at Kenya's main international airport today, with flag carrier Kenya Airways saying flights were disrupted. Hundreds of passengers were waiting outside the domestic terminal, and riot police dispersed picketing ground staff. The strike at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport follows a labor dispute between the Kenya Aviation Workers Union and the airline. Union leader Mosindema was arrested shortly after making a speech at the airport. A court injunction had earlier ordered the suspension of the planned industrial action. And that's a wrap on the show. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwagu.